So the next book is actually on the top of the list now because I'm not biased at all because it's about black people and gay people. And yeah, there's just a whole lot of inclusion in this book. It's called The Root, and it is an urban fantasy by, I am so sorry, sir, Namen Gobert Tillahun. I believe that is how you pronounce it. If it's not, I apologize, sir. It came out in 2016, and it was actually at last year's book festival. That was where I picked it up. I actually have the second one. It's called The Tree, and the last one is called The Fruit. So you can see where this is going. That was my inhaler. I apologize. It's dark fantasy, urban fantasy, contemporary fantasy, and paranormal fantasy. I didn't really get very much of the paranormal part, but all the other ones I kind of get. Eric got into a fight at school and sent those two psychotic assholes to the hospital. And they bully him because he's black and also probably because he's gay. And his mom says that something has awakened in him. He's got like when he fought them, he went like berserk, and that's actually the name of his class. It's called Berserker. So that's fun. But he's like a different type of berserker because he can control himself, sort of. Most berserkers can't be controlled, but he can control himself, so that's pretty cool. Eric fights a thing called an angelic, and this worries a dude named Matthias. Matthias is Eric's love interest, and they didn't kiss at the end of this book. And if they don't kiss by the end of the next book, I'm punching everything. I really like, it's such a wholesome romance, y'all. It's so cute. Anyway, so there's an organization that would want Eric because he's a berserker and they're rare and valuable, but they would burn him out in 2 months. But the agency, who is some other organization, would do worse. Suits, those are the agency workers. They come and they're looking for a girl that Eric saved because he fought the angelic because he was threatening. The angelic was threatening like a child. And Eric was like, nah, we're not about to kidnap children out here. So he literally rips a limb off of the angelics. That's pretty cool. Matthias helps him and the girl. They are, all of the classes are like healers and berserkers. All of them are called blooded. So that's what that means. Another angelic attacks, but Eric gets that one too. Elliot and Dea show up, and Eric flirts with Elliot, and it's pretty cool. Also, this isn't about Eric because it's not with him, but is it tokenism if the main character is gay? I'm just wondering. Like, it's not in this particular situation. I just thought about it because at this point I didn't know that there were other characters who were gay and transgender and non-binary and all of that. It took me like almost till the end of the book to realize that Dea uses the pronouns they. So, yeah. Yeah, I just thought about it because he has two typically tokenistic attributes in the wrong hands of the wrong writer. So that's what happens in San Francisco. There's this other place called Zebub, and there's a girl named Lil, and like she has a holder, I believe they're called. They're like, I don't know what they're holding, but they her city, okay. There's something happening in Zebub. So they have a meeting with other people, and her holder sends her home, and her town gets attacked. And for some reason, people also don't like the fact that she has magic. I don't really understand what was going on in Zebub. The two storylines are supposed to be connected, but they didn't really feel connected, even up at the end where they were connected. It just didn't feel together. So in San Francisco, the interesting part, Eric is told some history. The organization and Matthias aren't on good terms, even though Matthias used to work for them, but Matthias is going to do his training, and they're going to, stay with them for a little bit. So there's a war going on, but no one knows why, but there are blooded and non-blooded being kidnapped, and not necessarily by the angelics. They just know that something's happening. They are being kidnapped by the angelics. I apologize. The angelics and the suits are working together, but people who come back, most of them don't, but people who come back are different. And there's this dude named Daniel who keeps being mentioned, and he was like Eric's love interest, but his dad got him arrested because statutory rape, even though I think technically it wasn't, because I do believe, I do not agree with this law, I'm just saying, I do believe that there is a law that states that, like, if both of you were underage when it started, then it's not illegal if one of you turns 18. I think. Do not quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that is a law. Sounds stupid, but lots of things in the legal system are stupid. Um, so yeah. The child Eric saved, her name is Melinda. She has dreams sometimes, and sometimes the things in her dreams follow her out, but not because she wants them to. So, she wants to see Eric, and Eric wants to call his mom, and Eric is healing, but he's a berserker, so he must have it from his dad too, because Eric can heal, which he gets from his mom, but she can't produce a berserker. Like, it's all genetic. So if your mom is a non-blooded and your dad is a healer, then you will be a healer if you have the gene, but a healer cannot produce a berserker. So, yeah. Also, Melinda says Eric's name, and it's the author spells it with a C, but Eric says it's spelled with a K, and I'm like, are those two names pronounced differently? I pronounce them both the same. Eric and Erik. I pronounce those the same. So, I don't know. There's a third child. Their name is Tae-hee, and he knew that he was blooded the entire time. I don't remember where it said Tay was. If it said where Tay is from, I just think Tay is some nondescript Asian country. Back in Zebub, Lil's parents are dead. No clue about her siblings. She finds these two boys and goes back to this town where her holder is, and they're in a conflict with a group called the Ante, and her two companions get killed, and she gets back to her holder, and yeah, they go to another city. Sorry, not yet. They don't go to another city yet. Another apprentice for a different holder named Raziel finds Lil, and she thinks Lil is interesting. Her siblings are safe, and Holder Mayer, Lil's holder, is kind of rude. And he thinks her siblings are distracting. I don't like Holder Mayer because he's got no spine. Back in San Francisco, Tay is trying to find out if Eric will be on their side, which is fair. They start training, and Eric isn't like other berserkers. This one dude named Hugh, he got Eric all riled up by he was not in like a sexual way. He just like put his hand on Melinda's shoulder, and Melinda was like, please don't touch me. Hugh didn't listen to her, and Eric was like, she asked you not to touch her, which is a very important message to teach your children. So, in Zebub, Mayor suggests having others watch her children just because it's safer. So she makes a deal with these two people. I don't know. They do a blood oath. RL and Jaggy. It's technically legal, just morally reprehensible. But she doesn't think that she can trust Mayor anymore, which is a fair point, because by the end of this, his spineless ass gets her arrested. So yeah, there's reference to a darkness coming about, and they go to this like forbidden place, and like they're looking for something about the darkness, anything that could tell them anything about the darkness, but like 300 years, I think they only have history up to 300 years back, and no one's willing to talk about what happened before that time, which is highly annoying. Everything going on in Zebub is very, very annoying. Like, if this was just about San Francisco, I'd be totally cool with that, because it's much more interesting. Yida, Eric's mother, and Robert, Eric's dad, in San Francisco, they have a small fight, but meh. Robert also framed Daniel, which leads me to believe that Daniel didn't actually do anything wrong, because he's been in jail for 2 years now. He hasn't been returning any of Eric's calls because his lawyer said that was best, and so that he can move on. Eric used to be an actor, but after that whole thing with Daniel, he quit. And Robert, I think, is trying to run for Senate now. But, you can't have your kid be with a sexual predator, I guess, even though Daniel isn't. How nobody has proven that, or like listen to Eric, I have no idea, but whatever, I guess. Robert calls Eric that begins with F, that's a slur for gay people, so that's fun. And then like Eric and Yitta have a conversation, and Yitta's been like draining him or something. That's how she hid her magic. She hid it by like draining something from him so that she could like live a normal life because she doesn't want to be blooded, because in the last war she lost her mother, went crazy. Yeah. Robert also heard their conversation, so now somebody has to explain it to him. Matthias likes Eric, and I'm totally here for it. Hugh sends them on a mission, and it's technically not a trap. Tay has a chest binder, by the way. Matt and Eric did get hurt, but we go back to Zebub right in the middle of all the good shit. I could care less about what's happening in Zebub. Like, I reread the back of the book, and apparently Zebub is supposed to be the mirror to San Francisco, like the mirror world, and people from San Francisco are being sold to Zebub, so that's pretty cool, I guess. Or it's not pretty cool, I guess. Lil is going to a dinner with the ruling courts, and Mayor is all like, she's not the shy kid that I had before, and I want to know what happened to her in her town. And like, Lil already told him that both of her parents got killed, and for all she knew at that point, her siblings had been killed too. Like, I feel like that could harden up anyone. You ever read the book First They Killed My Father? Read the book First They Killed My Father. It's about the Vietnamese war from the perspective of a victim. So, yeah, read that book, because I feel like death and war harden anybody, and Mayor shouldn't be so spineless. Because Lil is probably going to find the solution to all of this, and everybody knows it. And everybody's so concerned with who's going to get credit. And I'm like, hey, how about we just be concerned with the fact that everybody is alive? Shocker. Anyway, it's here we find out that the other apprentices and the other holders want to rip Mayor and Lil apart for some reason. In San Francisco, they know that the mission was a setup, and they need to figure out who told who about it, or Hugh. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's H-U. I don't know how to pronounce it. He's an asshole, though. Elliot sees that Matt likes Eric, but Matt decides on some distance because he doesn't want to, risk getting attached. Melinda has two moms. Eric spars with Tay, and something happens, and he passes out, and then Melinda touches him, and they get, like, a vision together, a vision of the darkness. It's the same darkness that's affecting Zebub. Who wants to know what they saw? And Mel refuses to say. Somehow Tay was like giving Eric a message about the darkness, but what it's called a Cassandra? I don't know why it's called a Cassandra. They happen randomly, and Eric isn't required to share what happened during his Cassandra. It's really weird they call him that. I assume they call it that because the first girl to ever experience one was probably named Cassandra. It's weird. Matthias, he wants to leave the organization because he doesn't trust anybody there. Some people from the agency show up, and they're like, hey, we want peace temporarily. And at this point, we find out about some motherfucker that Matthias was in love with. His name was Byron. His name was Byron. And something happened to him, and now Byron is not the Byron that Matthias knew. Also, that whatever happened killed his mom, so that's fun. That's part of the reason why Matthias left the organization. Hugh worked out Eric's bloodline and didn't tell them that he worked it out. Yeah. Also, there's paparazzi outside of Eric's house all the time, and he knows that if they see him and Matthias together, that they're going to paint him and Matthias as dating, and he really wishes that the stories were true. So back in Zebub, Mayor isn't talking to Lil now. There's this lady named June that they want Lil to talk to see if she knows anything about the darkness, and I'm just gonna tell you what happens in the Zebub story so I can just skip over it. They frame uh Lil as like trying to seduce June because June gave her something to research in the forbidden space, and they tricked her and she got arrested. Now she's in prison and the guards are like beating her and like, okay. But her siblings, the two guys who were protecting her siblings, they also kissed Lil. It was really weird. And then they got them out of the city, and they end up with Byron. How Byron gets to Zebub, I don't know, but we will get to that progression soon. So now on to just the fun stuff. Back to San Francisco. Eric gets crap from his school, gets his shit out of his locker because he's been expelled for being in a fight. Byron is there and tells him not to trust anybody in the organization and keep an open mind about the agency and to ask Matthias about him. So Matthias tells him the whole thing. And, yeah. The Antis and the Angelics, I mentioned the Antis like once. I'm so sorry. They're the same thing. So, yeah, they're all being attacked by the darkness. Blooded and Angelic have like the same origin, different powers. They want to see if the Blooded can stop it where the Angelics couldn't. So they go to the place where the darkness is seeping through and they try to fight it and it's not really going very well. And they also pull a girl out of the darkness. So that's fun. I feel like I'm talking about Silent Hill, at least the movies. And then Byron, Eric is like, we're not going to help you motherfuckers because y'all did this to us. So Byron uses Daniel as leverage. He like broke him out of prison and he has them all put down their weapons. And like he said that he was going to let Daniel go, but he doesn't. He like throws him onto a spike. Daniel's now a ghost. Why? I have no idea. Daniel wasn't blooded, so who the fuck even knows? Dea, Tay, and Elliot are in a cell and he tells Eric that he is more than what everybody is saying. So... I mean, we already knew Eric was important, so, yeah. Matt woke up while they were trying to imprison him, so he was able to kind of escape, and no one else can see Eric except for the girl that they saved. Her name is Zaha, at least because Z-A-H-A, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm going to pronounce it Zaha. And, only the two of them can see it. And they were concerned at first because, like, usually when berserkers start saying things that no one else can see or something like that or hear, it means that they're going insane. But Eric's not going insane. And Zaha can see it too, so let's shut the fuck up. Anyway, Byron starts acting outside of orders because he actually killed some suits and I think some angelics as well. Eric says out loud that he was in love with a ghost and Matt looked heartbroken. So that's fun. He's going to Zebub for some reason and they make a San Francisco office and Eric is done with all of the bureaucracy and Luca's done with Hugh because Hugh wants to turn everybody against Eric and it's like, y'all, why don't we just be happy that we're not all dead? Like, everybody's so concerned with who's going to save the world and who's going to get credit for it. And, like, I get it. Maybe that's, like, really important for, like, history books and stuff like that. But I feel like in the moment when people are, like, fighting a war or something like that, they're not overly concerned with who's going to get credit for what. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I have never gone through a war personally, so I could be wrong, but I bet you I'm not. Yeah. So I've clearly decided that I want to read the second book. I think there are only going to be 3 of them because, like, based on the conceit of the titles, the root, the tree, the fruit, where could you possibly go after the fruit? So, yeah. I don't care about Zebub, like, at all. Eric is lovely, and he's just a person, and not a lot of people's version of a gay stereotype, which is really nice. He's black, but the whole story isn't about him overcoming racism, which, like, is an important story for black people, but there's more to our stories than just overcoming racism. It's actually barely mentioned. I like his irritation with people not giving him the answers that he wants, because why won't you just tell this boy what he wants to know? Yeah. Matthias doesn't exist to just be a love interest. All of the characters have the attributes that in the wrong hands would usually stand for, like, look at me, I'm inclusive, J.K. Rowling. But in this book, it's just kind of happenstance, and I like that about this book. The characters just have those attributes just to have those attributes, and it's pretty fucking dank. It's not like Tay being transgender is not a plot point. Byron as an antagonist is kind of cool due to Lil's now conflict of interest that is going to exist when everybody shows up and is like, hey, he's the bad guy. But Lil is like, but he has my siblings, though. Mayor is really, really annoying because it's like, dude, she's traumatized. Like, give her a fucking break. These siblings are like all she has left, so just because you don't have any family and you're bitter. I like the world building. And like that's weird to say because like I didn't get very much from Zebub. It kind of reminded me of like a weird like desert place where all the buildings are made of like clay or something like that, and everything's just dusty and there's magic. But like I don't know, there's no map. I don't know where anything is. I don't remember the names of these towns because the names are too long. Man. San Francisco is just San Francisco, but like also not. So it's really cool. As I said before, this book is at the top of the list because this series is amazing. So I'm going to read the next book, and hopefully I still love it because we all remember what happened with Dragon's Champion and Ebony Rising. Yeah. Cool. I'm not excited about the next video.